crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
Carpe diem. Carpe diem.
Feel my heart, it's beat tight. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. Feel my heart, it's beat tight. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call.
back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through. He's just gonna solidify everything within those.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Inu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Anvil immediately goes back there. Fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Welcome back, everybody, to CGL Season 17. We have some more EU action for you on this Saturday evening. Grandmasters tier, so these two teams duking it out today. It's going to be OTPorridge versus Unlimited, coming at this from very different score lines, let's say, so far. We're past the mid-season. We are now into the final stretch of it. OTPorridge, very much the favorite team here, Mega.
Yeah, OTPorridge obviously getting to feature themselves in that mid-season tournament. But then, on the other side, you do have, Unlimited, who maybe not the best start of the season, but still technically 2-2 on the board. If you have a good few back weeks here, you certainly can climb the rankings to get yourself into that postseason discussion. But, of course, there's still a lot of game left to play.
Yeah, certainly much more to see, and today we'll get just one more chance. We've only seen, in regular season, of course, a single map loss for OTPorridge so far. Now, they did not quite clinch things out in the tournament we just had last weekend, and of course, interestingly, they both now have lost, if you count that tournament, to the same team of EMC Chimera, dominant so far in this tier. But yes, Unlimited very much trying to shake off a couple of those earlier losses and would love to make a name for themselves here in the latter portion of the season. So excited to see what they have to bring to bear today. There's been some slight change-ups in terms of the recent patch this week, but nothing too overwhelming here. Minor slap on the wrist for Diva. Dive is still in a pretty solid position.
18 more months of Curie Lucio is what the devs said, from what I've heard. But, it is what it is at this point. You could try to be, that little bit extra, a little bit fluctuating if you, maybe got something in the back pocket you want to try. Because, again, while OTPorridge had to go play in that midseason Unlimited on the other side, they kind of got an off week where they got to sort of sit back, reevaluate, see where things were at, and see if they wanted to change up any game plan. So I'm very excited to see if they took advantage of that time and are going to come at us with some brand new looks. Like you said, Dive incredibly strong right now, especially on our first map of Lijiang. I mean, Lijiang's just good for everything, it feels like, but, at the end of the day, you could try to mix things up.
Yeah, this is the one map that is set in stone for the series. After this, the loser will decide where we head next, including the mode. So nothing here is guaranteed apart from this initial control map. And this time, of course, players do not get to pick for themselves Lijiang Tower, even though we know 9 times out of 10 they probably would anyway. But you're absolutely right. I fully agree in that you can kind of run whatever you want to compositionally here on Lijiang Tower. It just matters what your opponent ends up running and whether or not you can overpower them with your own style here. If we're going dive v dive, that is always a delight to watch. Of course, expecting to see that Lucio and Kiriko, as you've indicated, is just kind of the name of the game here in Overwatch no longer 2. It's just cleaner that way. First ban in the hands of OTPorridge here, and I'm kind of curious to see, I mean, they haven't really shown any massive weak spots here so far. They're very much, proponents of these pocket metas of their own, one trick heroes as they were. So curious to see if they want to stick with that Wrecking Ball that has been such a calling card of theirs, or if they want to shake things up.
Yeah, and the thing with Wrecking Ball, especially if you have somebody who's very proficient on it, it's one of those things of, Is the ball good enough to deal with counters, right? Because obviously you think of traditional ball counters like the Cassidy, the Sombra, things like that. And if a ball player can play around that to the point it's so annoying that a team just has to outright ban it, it can certainly, have that sort of impact on a match. But the first man will actually go on the support side of things with a ban onto the Lucio here. So if you want a speed boost, it'll be at the hands of the Martian here because no frog in sight.
Yeah, I love to see a ban onto a hero that teams are kind of expected to run out the gate here on these control maps. Lucio, I mean, is usually the one of those two. Kiriko is kind of too useful, too much utility to be gained for any of these teams to even risk not having that on their side. But the Lucio indicates that you might be running players, heroes rather, who don't have to worry about being sped around by someone else, can really take care of their own flank angles, or you might want to run some slower compositions and don't want to have to risk your opponent getting there in a quick time. The Junkrat ban here for Unlimited, that is certainly a strong hero pick that OTPorridge, one of the few teams that does play a good bit of Junkrat here to great effect. Pizza Lover is the one usually piloting that hero, and by usually I mean always, every single time, is going to be Pizza Lover. So yeah, that is a good read out the gate here, and yeah, for both these teams, I would say.
And the Junkrat, it's such a difficult hero, especially when you have somebody who's really prolific on it, because most of the time you think of Junkrat, you think of somebody who's just going to pretty much stand AFK in center and just shoot grenades hoping for a kill. But when you actually know what you're doing on Junkrat in terms of movement tech and things like that, you can come from a lot of surprise angles and things like that. And, like you said, Pizza Lover, certainly somebody who loves to run that character. So taking that away, making it not an option here right off rip, I mean, it makes complete sense. You want to try to give yourself the best chance at an early map win, but that might be a ban you're hurting for later on.
Looking at our rosters overall, for the side of OTPorridge, you've got Mini Mythical and Mantra currently in for your DPS line, the Weevil as your tank, Aster and Moots rounding out your support line, whereas Unlimited, we're looking at Aticophobia and Arrow for your DPS, Live in Hell as your tank, currently hovering that favored pick of the Diva, Breach 0 and Solar for your support line.
Yeah, two overall solid squads. These rosters are pretty deep though, so would not be surprised to see substitutions as we go throughout the series. But again, it's sort of a double-edged sword when you have these sort of deep extended rosters, right? Where you have the flexibility, but sometimes that leads to a lack in stability in terms of, potentially who's going to be talking, who's going to be ult tracking, calming, calling fight plans and things of that nature here. So be interesting to see how long these lineups stick in place here before people try to make swaps and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those benefits that both these teams have, just having so many bodies on the squad, that even if a targeted ban comes your way, we're seeing already that Pizza Lover is not going to be in this first map, which makes total sense. If Junkrat is your pocket pick, you need to have someone else in there who can really provide that depth of flexibility, as we're, seeing indicated here so far by the DPS line of OTPorridge. And yeah, for Unlimited, it's nice to have that flexibility. I mean, they've got plenty of supports on their roster already here, so yeah, knowing that you're going to have both Breach 0 and Solar in here, while you still have two others there on the other, waiting on the bench, knowing whatever bans come your way, you're able to adapt in quick fashion. So I'm curious to see how both of these very deep benched, very adaptable teams sort of struggle against each other here. They've not faced each other so far this season, nor in that tournament. Of course, Unlimited did not quite make it to that Final Four. So yeah, this should be a real test of the depth of each of their rosters.
Yeah, and again, it's just sort of, again, that test, that litmus thing that we're sort of talking about right now, because we want to see if OTPorridge is going to come in swinging, or if just, finally experiencing loss for the first time this season, while it was in the mid-season tournament, that can be a thing that sort of shakes teams, makes you lose a little bit of confidence, or come back with just that much more fight. Meanwhile, then on the other side, again, we really can't highlight it enough. Unlimited, not necessarily in the most dire of straits yet, but you gotta start putting wins on the board. You're already 2-2. You want a chance at the postseason. This is the time to sort of start racking up those wins if you want to have any chance of seeing it.
Yeah, so far this is a team that either is giving out the 3-0s or is receiving those 3-0s. A bit swingy so far to this point in the seasons here. So yeah, fully agree. Unlimited needs to find their sticking place, needs to find their comfortable comp, their comfortable adaptation that they're making here into a team like OTPorridge, which, I mean, if any team is going to test your own flexibility, it is a team like this one. Not only very dominant, but of course, having these unexpected adjustments in their roster, having all of these, niche picks. But folks, it looks like we are going to be diving into our first setup here on Lijiang. We're just loading everybody in here before we kick things off. And yeah, I mean, the map itself is no surprise whatsoever. We do know what it's going to be out the gate, but that does provide still plenty of flexibility for these teams to work with here. The Jetpack Cat is something that we see occasionally on some of these, I'm thinking especially on Gardens, has sometimes been a strategy for slower tanks to get airlifted to the actual point itself. But yeah, when you're playing alongside the Weevil on this Wrecking Ball, you won't need that. All this is just hover picks for a moment to trip us up while we dive into the actual map itself.
Yeah, that's always been sort of the nature of it here, OTPorridge, on a very interesting comp with a lot of different pieces that are going to be doing a lot of different individual things. It's a very individual game on their side of the coin. Meanwhile, Unlimited going to be trying to move as a unit using this Bash and Sigma while there's no speed with it, just sort of walking it around the map, taking your time, and really finding a way to utilize those cooldowns best case possible.
Yeah, Arrow is very commonly seen here on this Bastion, so I'm excited to see that come into play against, of course, the very individual, as you're saying, playing roster side of OTPorridge, but already losing Mini Mythical here on a bit of a too deep engagement there, and having to worry about this Bastion constantly poking a prod at you is certainly an issue for the side of OTPorridge. Weevil just able to roll away to safety, but that means first Cat was going to go the way of Unlimited, and they put themselves in a good spot. This comp would love to be in this position for the rest of the map.
Exactly, right? It's a Sigma comp, therefore it wants to be in the defensive positioning. But there is obviously, caveats that have to come with that here, like breaking through the May wall.
Mini Mythical certainly was counting on that wall to do a little bit more than stand up like tissue paper, but Arrow cleaving through that, no trouble whatsoever, taking down 2 before the rest of OTPorridge can blink, make that a 3rd. Moots falling shortly there afterwards. I mean, OTPorridge having a really tough time getting any foothold.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to how their comp is so individualistic, right? You have a certain level of synergy between the Wrecking Ball and the Tracer, but besides that, everybody else is really going to be playing on their own, and that's going to really, cause a lot of situations where your supports could be isolated.
Weevil's been doing a good job building up this ultimate charge, but of course, as I mentioned him, he does immediately go the way of the dinosaurs. That is Arrow cleaning up that Wrecking Ball, live in hell as well. Doubling down to take down the Brig of Moots out of this fight here. Mini Mythical just able to get away for a few more moments. We'll see if that, contains a few more seconds here. Yeah, that's going to be a little more time. Burn off the clock here. Ultimate's finally coming online in this next fight. A full stack for Unlimited. OTPorridge still building up towards some of those most impactful ones.
Yeah, and now that it's becoming an ult game, like you were saying, Rags, I mean, it's going to be, a little bit concerned here. Ooh, but the Sigma caught off needs that immortality field.
Yeah, that is your best angle. You would love to dive directly onto Live and Hell, who's just able to escape away that wall, getting blasted down just behind you, sneaking away at a moment's notice. The Immortality Field doing enormous amounts of work, keeping the team alive and steady. Unfortunately, the beneficiary thereof at Breach 0-0. Back in spawn for a few more moments here, but the kill is already falling the way of Unlimited. And we are down to the last 5% on the objective. The Minefield comes through from the Weevil, but is now done and dusted. Not even alive to see that glory. It's going to be 100-0 on Control Center for Unlimited.
Can we just talk about that accretion that hits the Tracer mid-blink? Like, the Tracer wasn't even on screen, but the Tracer just kind of decides to get down Mr. President for the Wrecking Ball. You feel like it would be vice versa, but apparently not. It's just Mantra wanting to give his own life over there. But now, again, very individualistic for OTPorridge still here, even with the swaps that they have made. If they're sticking this in the spawn room, it's going to be about trying to get onto that backline, wanting to try to apply pressure to the Baptiste or the Brigitte. But again, I feel like your Ana and potentially even your May are both going to be left on islands while Weevil and Mantra try to go to work here.
Yeah, Aster, of course, is going to look to find, taking the squad to the objective, but also trying to find those pickoffs available to the Cat. Not just that ultimate, but get so much damage put in at range. Arrow hopping towards the point, that teleporter out just to scooch them a little bit closer to the point to kick things off. And so much space already being controlled here by Unlimited. OTPorridge have to play around the flanks here. They do not have a central tank to anchor around. Weevil is trying to do his very best just to build up towards that ult charge, find a nice minefield sooner rather than later. Just just able to stay back on the side of the map here. Unlimited already on the objective as OTPorridge rotating, rolling through here in the case of the Weevil, and they have lost bodies on the side of Unlimited here. Arrow first to fall. Richo Zero so close to going down. Eventually will get taken down by Mini Mythical here. That Mei is providing so much value, so much effect here on the objective. And again, the D.Va has such a tough time playing into this Mei. I understand why they did not stick on the Sigma, but this is still a composition that can run rings around a D.Va.
Yeah, and you know that it's one of the things. If D.Va is incredibly strong right now, but this is going to require her to be in almost every single place at once, and that's just not possible for any character in the game. You know, you're not hitting the Shadow Clone Jutsu, you're not teleporting, making multiple copies of yourself, so you're going to have to try to be a little bit more focused, especially if you're going to stick to this D.Va pick.
Isolating wall put up to lock out Arrow, but everyone else able to blast down quick enough, and Arrow just goes right for the artillery form, taking down Moots and the Weevil as Breach of Zero and Ticophobia getting those kills there. It is going to be the ult coming through from Aster, but only taking down 2. Might not be enough here. Mini Mythical with this Blizzard on the point. Alright, this is the defensive and offensive ult in one. Just goes into the ice block at the last second. They're able to sustain for a few moments longer, but unfortunately not enough to sustain any further in this fight. It is going to be the Weevil spinning to winning back on the point here as Live in Hell was able to get back into that mech in no time flat. Yeah, that is going to be the end of that Wrecking Ball. Has bought plenty more percentage on the objective though, and you're going to have to worry about once again the cat back in. That's 60% nearly gained here for OTPorridge.
Yeah, and, you know, but 20% of that was purely off of stall, right? Clearly, OTPorridge lost that fight a long time ago, but there's stall potential incredibly high between a Mei, a Wrecking Ball, and the Jetpack Cat all able to get in. And now, especially in this next fight, while Ult Unlimited technically has more ultimates in the bank, we have to, you know, acknowledge the Nano Blade that OTPorridge is coming in with. You know how powerful that can be.
Although down the Ana is certainly going to put a cooler on that one. OTPorridge have to wait if they want to make that combo go their way. And honestly, anything you want to do, you're going to need to wait for that Ana to get back. It is just the Jetpack Cat providing any of your healing here. And as we can see, Aster is in the sky right around the far side of the objective there, trying to find some sneaky damage, sneaky pickoff potential coming through here. The minefield on the objective could easily make things difficult for Unlimited, but yeah, they are coming into this one with almost all of their ults available. The blade coming out from Mantra, nanoed up and ready to party, slicing and dicing all over that high room past the objective, taking down 3 with blade alone. Unlimited falling one by one, spending that rally, trying to turn the fight, but not able to do so. And once again, OTPorridge back in control.
Yeah, and they have some solid ultimates to close this one out. Like, they go through with the Nano Blade, but then, you know, heading this next fight, you have Blizzard to hold space, you have Minefield to, you know, take even more space across the map, and then Aster could just decide to abduct somebody with the Catnap here. So, tons of different utility for OTPorridge, and honestly, Unlimited doesn't really have a way to sustain or live through all of this besides just eating the Blizzard, running past the Minefield, and anything else in between.
Now, right now, this ults are focused on pick potential, but a Ticophobia finding a kill onto that ulting Jetpack Cat. That's a bit of a devastating loss early on in this fight here. You've also lost your tank. That Wrecking Ball is such a useful distractor and damage mitigating tool here for your squad. So Unlimited, despite having the disadvantage in terms of their sheer composition coming through, are able to focus things down on the point. That overclock from a Ticophobia, cleaning up Aster at the very end of that fight. 99% gain for OTPorridge, but they have burned every one of their ultimates. They're going to have a really tough time re-engaging.
Exactly. And again, it was sort of the situation that Unlimited need to force. Like, honestly, I wish we had gotten a perspective of how that sort of went awry for OTPorridge, because they seemingly had everything, especially in that small corridor, but they just ended up not catching on to those limbs when they needed to. So now, rotating over to the point, you do have to worry about this amplification matrix coming out here and potentially just taking all the space away.
Yeah, Breach of Zero has so often been the initial target here of the dive, and the Weevil does just that, cresting over the ledge like a terrifying beach ball, slams down, taking down 2 so far. Make that a 3rd as Arrow soon to fall, just about having that Mortar Strike online. We are losing bodies on either side here, but OTPorridge have the sustain. They have that, you know, trickle back onto the objective potential here, but ooh, a sneaky pickoff here. That ball, that D.Va bomb, just catching out the Wrecking Ball of the Weevil. so it looked to be a done and dirty fight for OTPorridge. Unlimited might have just clinched us at the last second. That Mei wall just keeping the Mei away from the objective. The Boop as well certainly did plenty of work. But Unlimited flipping things around when it looked to be OTPorridge's submap to win. Take Lijiang in 2-0 fashion.
Yeah, and this is what I was sort of talking about and hoping for from the side of Unlimited. You know, come out with a clear set game plan, right? And whether it was on the D.Va or the Sigma, right? The game plan still was clearly the same, where you're going to move as a unit regardless of anything, protect your backline from getting dove and taking these engagements and things of that nature. So overall, it, you know, works out incredibly well for them here. And OTPorridge, very uncharacteristic, very individual-esque based game here that they are playing, where everybody seems to just be on disjointed heroes. You know, potentially that Lucio ban throwing them off a little more than they wanted to, but overall it's, you know, not the best look for a team that we really expect a lot from.
Yeah, I mean, to their credit, at least for OTPorridge, they will have access to their Junkrat player for the rest of the series here, but honestly, you would expect them to be able to make things work even without that singular pocket pick that we know the Junkrat to be for Pizza Lover. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right here in that the Lucio might have been a really solid method of, you know, keeping the Ana in particular. I'm thinking they're on Gardens in the fight a bit longer, able to hasten you, chauffeur you back to the point, obviously much quicker. Most of your squad is not relying on that, yes, but, you know, crucially, the Mei and the Ana, bit slower to get to the objective, and just that little bit of edge of cohesion. Of course, your Wrecking Ball off on a limb, doing whatever he wants to, but making sure the rest of the squad is there and a little bit more contained might have been just the thing to push them over the edge. It was a solid fight there on Gardens. It went to 99 to 100, but I mean, thinking back to Control Center, that was 100 to 0 for Unlimited, nowhere near the closer second round we've been seeing.
Yeah, and again, you know, it comes down to sort of this strategy that I was questioning at first. The second I saw it, I was like, okay, what is the Sigma going to do walking around with a Bastion, especially with no speed? But really, just again, the entire team took space, as well as there was never a point that you felt the backline was vulnerable, right? That Baptiste Brig, even with Breach Zero getting dove over and over and over again, just being able to stay alive through these engagements thanks to the Brig peel in most of these situations, it really led to, you know, some great situations for Unlimited to then take advantage of it, allow their team to put in the work and get those eliminations where they needed. And again, I keep highlighting back to that fight that OTPorridge had. You know, they had a Minefield, a Blizzard, and the Catnap all available, and somehow all three go awry. They don't catch anything in the rotation to point for Unlimited here. So again, I feel like while Unlimited is playing well, there definitely are some Porridge shortcomings that need to be sort of dealt with.
And we'll be dealing with them here on our second map of the series, folks. We know we are going to Flashpoint. It is going to be Saravasa. So yeah, I mean, if you want to continue running what you were running, you know, Flashpoint is the name of the game here. It is the closest thing to Control that the game currently has today. Saravasa, tried and true, a comfort pick for most of these teams so far here. And yeah, I mean, if you really feel like you were just sort of coming apart in the minutia of it, I think this makes total sense for OTPorridge to want to take us here to Saravasa. They kind of excel in these longer, more chaotic, more all over the place map styles. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Mega, in that like they were not able to really capitalize on that effectively on Lijiang Tower. When they even seem to have so many things lined up for them, they just can't quite make those dominoes fall in the exact fashion necessary to clinch things up. So it'll be their chance to start things off this time with our first ban.
Yeah, and again, it's Porridge that's deciding to get to go here, so it is, you know, potentially what they're thinking about heading forward into Saravasa here. Because again, very individualistic style, but this is going to sort of benefit things like the Wrecking Ball, and as well as it's just a mode that allows for chaos to really thrive, right? Whether it ends up being that Junkrat from Pizza, like we keep highlighting, expecting it to come back in now that the band's no longer there, or, you know, overall it's just going to be some sort of other game plan that Porridge has cooked up. You know, this is a map that is very suited to what they were playing on map number 1, so even though they couldn't come away with the win on map number 1, now a much more favorable battleground, they should be able to, you know, do a little bit more, be a little bit more of a presence here. So I think it's going to actually come down to, you know, what these bands end up being and how we see Unlimited choose to respond.
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like even on those fights where Unlimited were losing the first body, usually it's going to be Breach 0 losing that Baptiste early on here, but no, first it's going to be the Sojourn ban. That honestly makes a great deal of sense. Was one of the weak points, pain points for them on the first map, and of course, getting to see that Unlimited have such a dedicated Sojourn player in Aticophobia all the way through. I mean, not just the overclocks, but the sheer railgun shots. That Jetpack Cat was largely being kept in check by a Sojourn, and of course, this particular hero does see so much play on these Flashpoint maps, so a very solid ban here from OTPorridge. Now it is down to Unlimited to answer. I'm curious whether they go for a tank ban or support. I mean, if you want to stop the Wrecking Ball shenanigans, now is the best time to do it, the best chance that I would say that OTPorridge have to use it. But no, it is another Lucio ban. So yeah, maybe they're kind of picking up on that same thing we were, whereas you kind of would have hoped to have that Lucio here. And maybe saving that previous ban from OTPorridge for this map might have shot them a little bit in the foot.
Yeah, and so now that would be two maps that we don't see. Again, it's one of those things where it's such a double-edged sword when you take out the Lucio, because obviously there is another speed boost in the option in the game, if I could speak proper English, with Juno, but Juno is so much easier to focus down than Lucio, right? No really insane movement tech and things like that. A lot of the time just ends up floating in the air, almost like a pinata, waiting for DPS to take their turn swinging at it. So you end up straying away from it, and when you lose that speed boost, you lose a lot of the cohesion, right? Lucio sort of forces everybody to stay together while they're not, attached to the Lucio, keeping everybody in that ring, moving together as one or healing together as one. It really is sort of unifying, and OTPorridge right now, I don't think they're about unity. And this is certainly not going to help them in any case because they're not going to be allowed to have unity.
No, but a unifying factor coming back from the bench, however, is going to be Pizza Lover swapping in for Mantra on the side of OTPorridge. So, yeah, this is not a surprise whatsoever here. Unlimited know that was their one chance to ban out the Junkrat, and they should honestly probably expect to see it unless things start going horribly wrong for OTPorridge later on down the series. But Unlimited, I mean, just as we were talking about, they were not running this Lucio. Of course, they couldn't in the previous map, but pretty comfortable on this Bat Brig composition here. So I feel like they favor themselves in this slower composition where the supports more worry about keeping each other safe than necessarily playing that faster tempo that we're so used to seeing here from the squad. And yeah, if there are gonna be any speed, shenanigans coming out here, it's gotta be that Juno, but as you highlighted, Mega, so vulnerable compared to that Lucio. And we've seen already, despite Aticophobia not having that Sojourn, any other of these hit scan based heroes or, leading in that same direction could easily provide such a clear answer to this usually pretty solid backline of what might be a Break Juno.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh no, this Sojourn was really popping off. Let's ban Sojourn. Nobody who plays Sojourn is a Sojourn OTP. You know what I mean? It's, oh, I could play Embre, I could play Soldier, I could play Cassidy, I could play Ashe. Like, there's so many hit scans options that cover a wide degree of ranges, especially, again, the Cassidy is what immediately comes to mind, because if you want to hinder that Wrecking Ball, hit those flashbang nades and things like that, as well as just farm damage off of it to build up high noons over and over and over again to farm the rest of the team, it's certain that can certainly be annoying. And again, there's tons of different hit scan options here. So while the Sojourn, it might sting a little bit, there's dozens upon dozens of other options.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen, it's only been one map, haven't seen the Cassidy out so far, but I would not be surprised to see Aticophobia going that way after this potential teleport coming out. We saw that on Gardens of Lijiang Tower, could easily be a strat once again. Arrow loves to have that speed boost, but Breach Zero and Solar would also love to get hastened a little bit closer to the objective here. Aster once again hovering this Jetpack Cat. Moots this time on the Wuyong. Love to see Wuyong, especially on Flashpoint. Feel like he is such an adept hero at sort of handling all the craziness that these points can really engender here. Pizza Lover, Mini Mythical on those signature hero picks of that Junkrat and the Mei. And of course the Weevil, unsurprisingly, back here on the Wrecking Ball until the Wrecking Wheels fall off. So yeah, fading into this Diva once again. It is going to be the Cassidy out here for Unlimited. Makes total sense. An excellent answer to so much what OTPorridge are trying to get away with here, whether it is Aster high flying in the skies or Moots just trying to get around this objective and sort of chauffeur the rest of the squad to safety. Weevil has to dive in, pop that reactive barrier there just to stay alive. The point still continues contested, no one on the point, still continuing this engagement off and on these angles here. Pizza Lover finding the first kill. Losing your Cassidy early here has got to spell a bit of retreat for Unlimited.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see what Porridge's comp is meant to do, which is literally just cause chaos until a DPS can go crazy, whether it's a Mei Icicle, Junkrat coming in on the flank, or what have you. Like, it's all about just pulling attention every which way, so that way you discombobulate your opponent here. So Unlimited going to have to just do a better job of sticking together if they want to deal with this chaotic nature, especially when you already have this Blizzard so built up and ready to go for the Mei.
Yeah, the order of the day is keep this Cassidy safe. You can find these answering picks onto OTPorridge, but a Blizzard already available and utilized by Mini Mythical. Tough spot to be in, to be sure. And that is everybody on the side of Unlimited falling. Live in Hell not quite able to get away. That is going to be a DMAC, and of course, unexpected Diva Stagger coming through. Feels bad, my friend. I am sorry to see that come through for you. Goes for the remake. Nope, not able to do so. Moots clears that up. Another 10 seconds burned off the clock.
Yeah, and this might even hinder Unlimited's chance to get back into this objective here with time to spare, right? It's going to be probably a very staggered out touch from the Diva to try to get into this objective. Now, you do also have to swap off of the Cassidy over to the Emre, and it seems like they are just giving up this center point, going ahead and gambling to see if they could see where to head next. Both teams, have a pretty decent bank of ultimates, but again, I'm wondering how they can sort of protect this hit scan. That way they can allow Arachnophobia to really just do what they please.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good call, I think, to sort of hold off on recontesting, right? Because you're immediately going to be playing from a point of weakness there, but it is going to be the tire coming out here for Pizza Lover. Such a runaround being taken and gets a kill in the back end. That Emery having a really tough time, looking all around over the shoulders and above in the sky, but nothing's going to do much against the overwhelming pressure coming out from that Junkrat. So it is OTPorridge spending just that one ultimate, and already first control of Gardens is in their hands. Unlimited, though, as you mentioned, Mega, coming in with 4 ults of their own, but still, positional advantage is key for OTPorridge.
Yep, and this defensive positioning continuing to be a thorn in the side here, where, again, you're looking at so many different angles, you don't really know where to address first. Like, you're going on the Junkrat, congrats, that means the ball's on your backline, and things of that nature, and you're just not able to do anything about it.
Minefield out, an arrow not able to get out there quick enough, as is Bastion's won't, unfortunately. So yeah, just spending one, yet again, shutting down everything here. Tichophobia on the Reaper gets walled off. That is a tough spot to be in. So the Wraith form, just to try and stay alive for a few moments longer, gets out. So there is still a chance of re-engaging here, but already 65% and counting for OTPorridge. Unlimited need to make something work, and they need to go now. They have ults, but unfortunately, if positioning is not in your favor, there's not a lot you can do with it, and that is going to be a yank coming through, but crucially got broken out of it there. Aster falls down in the middle of that catnap, trying to get that Bastion off the edge, not able at all to do so. So this is a massive opening here for Unlimited, or at least it would have been if they had already not lost 2 bodies. So positional advantage no longer in their hands. They flipped the point, but it is so tough to stay alive when everyone from OTPorridge gets back to the point so quickly. So a mere 16% is all they'll get here on Gardens.
And again, they're, falling apart to the chaos here, and they're struggling to come up with answers. Where, again, on first map, we saw them moving together as a unit across the entirety of the map, and that's going to have to be what you do here, but the question is, do they know to hunt for Pizza Lover hiding in these little cheeky angles, potentially with a tire ready to rip?
Yeah, Pizza Lover loves to find these sneaky angles of surprise. We saw him waiting for one of these on market, ready to go. And of course, Unlimited this time, they can't afford not to play into his hands. A Tichophobia falling so low, just within arm's reach of that Death Blossom, gets unfortunately Junkratted out of existence. Another Riptire here, and where is it going to come from? Honestly, we don't even know until the final point is clicked. Immortality Field saving everybody's life, but with that, they are down to a sliver of health. Live in Hell able to get healed up, but only just. Everyone else falling around the tank, and finally will get taken down in quick order. There's 3 kills there for the Weevil, of course, swinging through on that Wrecking Ball. Not much you can do on an edge like that, but just look at the water waiting safely below.
Yeah, and I mean, Unlimited truly having a rough time here. Their rotations are being found out and scouted time and again here. And, what we were priding them on, their ability to sort of keep their backline alive, is completely vanished in this map on Saravasa here. So now, trying to close the distance, like, Reaper can do some decent damage, but with a Death Blossom, nobody's really grouped up to take advantage.
The Weevil here, the most menacing pendulum you've ever seen. That is a Blizzard locking up everybody from Unlimited. 73% and counting here. And this fight, I mean, it is all over but the crying. And there's just going to be... so difficult to even get back to the objective in time here. Unlimited, this is their last chance to make this map swing in their direction. They're going to have to reverse sweep Saravasa itself. But with only 3% to go, is anyone even close? They are not. That's going to be a shutdown coming through. And with ults to spare, it is OTPorridge locking up Saravasa, fully unleashed, will even up the series.
I mean, where was this OTPorridge? Like, is it really just, oh, they banned Junkrat, we need to just give up and not play? Like, this is just a completely different team, it feels like, where they've actually just come alive. They're playing, even though, again, 5 individualistic characters, but they're actually, playing together and finding value in things of that nature. So, like, it truly is just a baffling question of where was this unleashing?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel too simplistic to say, oh, it's just the Junkrat, because no, everyone else was playing. There were still 4 of these exact same players in on the engagement here, and that same Lucio, banned out now by both teams, will fully be available for the rest of the series. But yeah, I guess just having that one final piece to slot in, and it does... I think Saravasa really highlights those differences, similar as they are between Control and Flashpoint, but the broad space of the map that you can take up here on Saravasa, whether it is cutting off those disengage routes, or of course the re-engage routes that your opponent would love to get away free on, every single time that there was a single doorway or a choke point that, of course, you might enter through for the side of Unlimited, OTPorridge were just waiting there on the other side. Whether it was the Weevil from above or on the flank behind you is going to be Pizza the Lover on that Junkrat, there was just no escaping them, and it honestly felt more like a, haunted horror ride than a map of friendly Overwatch here. But the series has been evened up, and Unlimited, I mean, where do you go from here?
I think if you're Unlimited, the first thing you do is you just put yourself back together, right? Because, OTPorridge, they did what they want to do, which is discombobulate you. So now you have to just say, okay, wasn't our map, we're going to get our Soj back. And just put yourself back together, take a moment to just sort of take a breath and reset here. Which conveniently we are also going to do as well. So we're going to throw it to a quick little break while everybody gets that little rest in. Get yourself a snack, get yourself a little bathroom break if you need it, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. We are right here in the midst of our matchup between OTPorridge and Unlimited here in our EU Grand Masters tier. Both of these teams with a single map to their name, but of course, the further and further we get, the closer these tied matches get to finding a victory here at the end of all things. And Mega, we know where we're headed for our third map of the series.
Yes, indeed. You could say this match has been a push and pull back and forth, so that means we have to head to push, of course, here. Yeah, listen, best segue of all time. Somebody get me an award for that. But anyway, yeah, we are heading over to Esperanza for map number 3 here. And, you know, we're cycling through what I like to call the good game modes. We don't have to worry about a payload. There's nothing else, you know, it's just, you know, simple objectives that you sort of contest back and forth here. But honestly, I think the real talk of the town, like we were talking about before that break, is Unlimited needs to sort of put themselves back together after OTPorridge hit them with a little bit of the discombobulation.
Yeah, that was really getting to see OTPorridge playing at their peak, right? That was the composition they've been trying to run this entire series already, and honestly piloting it to perfection. Pure chaotic perfection, but for them it is well oiled, and Unlimited unfortunately just not able to keep up with that insane tempo and the surprising, you know, angles of attack at all points there. So now, their chance to stabilize and set themselves up, they've decided to take us to push, where they hope to provide at least a little bit of stability. Here you've got that objective to worry about. It is no payload, sure, but they both get to fight for supremacy over who gets to send that bot in whatever direction they like for a barricade that is, I'm sure, serving some purpose, but mostly just to facilitate our lovely Esperanza map. The first ban is in the hands of Unlimited here, so I'm wondering when they're going to break button in case of emergency. I mean, the Wrecking Ball ban's got to be coming down the pipe at some point here. You have to figure.
Yeah, you have to sort of figure indeed here, but at the end of the day, we never know. We are just the humble people who sit and speculate time and again here with the bans and things of that nature, but as we are getting a look at it, you know, the timer just likes to restart itself. It's trolling, it's fine. It'll be a-okay here in a second. I just promise I'm not just saying words. There we go. Baptiste ban. Actually, you know, pretty solid coming from the side of OTPorridge because, you know, while they've been able to start diving on the map a little bit more, especially there on Saravasa, it's clear that they want to play this Baptiste till Kingdom Come on the side of Unlimited. So taking away that option, that crutch potential there, could be a massive influence.
Yeah, no, really solid choice on their part. Makes complete sense. It was kind of their saving grace at a lot of points on those fights on Saravasa, where Unlimited were kind of having some mild success there. It was obviously the first dive target on Lijiang Tower for every single one of those engagements, especially, of course, on Gardens, where Unlimited were doing their very best to stay alive through the ball's aggression. But now, yeah, getting to see on the other side of things which ban comes our way. It's going to be the Wrecking Ball ban from Unlimited. All right, they have heard the call. They have decided what is what. Makes total sense, right? Because even in our escort type maps, obviously a team like OTPorridge is probably going to run the Wrecking Ball anyway, but at least a little bit less favored of a composition. Here on Esperanza, on Push, kind of a Wrecking Ball's paradise.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of dive tanks paradise. You think historically, you think of Winston, you think of Diva, as well as the Wrecking Ball in that mix as well. So, you know, just taking away that main option, that also, again, that thorn in the side. I mean, hey, listen, last time Unlimited struck gold with banning out an OTP, it completely crumbled OTPorridge's strategy. I just realized OTPorridge, OTP, because they've got one tricks. All right, I just got that. I'm a little bit slow on the uptake, but it is what it is.
I only get it because I've casted them a couple weeks ago, but yes, that is exactly the name of the game for them. But some massive shakeups here for the roster. Mantra coming in for the DPS line, and Beast for numbers for your tank. So we're going to see a little bit of a goodbye to the Weevil here. The Wrecking Ball not able to be played. So that's for the side of OTPorridge, whereas Unlimited, Marlon in on your DPS line, and Ikbin online for your support. So some shakeups here, clearly feeling the heat of the bans already. Makes total sense. If you're relying on that BAP most effectively, you do want to have someone else in who can provide some more flexibility to you. Marlon here instead, hovering that Tracer. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And yeah, I'd be worried again. Beast for Numbers has proven to be such a monstrous tank with a bit more flexibility in terms of favored tank picks than the Weevil on that Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, and I also think with Mantra coming back in as well, I think this is both teams subbing in their flex DPS, most likely to play Tracer, but like you said, there are, potentially some other options that could come about as well here, but I think fully expecting the Tracer, it completely makes sense, and also with no Lucio ban in sight, this could be a return to form with the Kiri Lucio here. If we go off of favorite heroes all the time, then, maybe we can try to speculate what these comps are, but with all due respect, EGB, let's just not play Mercy. Let's not do that. I think that would be better for everybody's mental health if we just avoided playing that character.
I mean, considering the composition we've been seeing so far here, Mega, anything is possible. Unfortunately, anything could happen here on Esperanza. I would be surprised. I would certainly not expect to see that, but of course, who is expecting to see these, OTPs coming out here for OTPorridge all the way through? Despite it being their namesake, still insane to see, the Junk one trick and the Wrecking Ball one trick in this day and age of Overwatch here. So that is going to finalize things roster-wise. Let's dive into the actual map proper, and of course, we don't know what is going to operate here out of spawn doors until they leave them once that timer ticks down, but I feel like that's some pretty strong indications that, if you want to continue running, I know Beast has played a lot of this Winston. You mentioned that, of course, Winston and D.Va, both of these dive tanks have such, historical success on Esperanza. Live in Hell already hovering that D.Va once again. Beast for Numbers, we saw that Domina hovered in the team lineup there. I wonder if that might be a potential pick here, especially if they're sticking with that Iyari alongside the Wuyong.
I am going to continue to shell my Domina propaganda, which is that Domina is not actually that good. She has this insane ban rate, especially in competitive, for no particular reason. Because once she puts her shield down, there's a 15-second cooldown where you just walk past the shield and kill her. She doesn't even have armor. It's just shield health. Just shoot her. And she will die. I pinky promise. But hey, potentially not going to be as easy here if OTPorridge can properly play the space with the Domina helping out, especially with that damage-dealing backline of the ERU Wuyang like you were talking about.
I mean, as long as the sightline continues to be what it is right now, it certainly has the advantage, does Beast for Numbers in this poke potential matchup here. But yeah, finally you're seeing Unlimited dive forward on to the objective here, and this is where you can really find that advantage against that Domina. You want to play closer up in your face. Of course, you're having a really tough time as Live in Hell is eating so much damage coming through from even further back than that tank. Beast for Numbers being supported at great range there by Aster, Moots, and Pizza Lover, all of which would love to get a piece of this D.Va here. So yeah, Marlon and Mantra fighting it out on the flank here. It is Tichophobia back on this Sojourn, able to clean up Mantra, but Marlon falling soon thereafter. Just down Arch Tracers, an honorable duel for the rest of us on the front line. No background shenanigans. Except, of course, when you're hunting the opposing tank is, yeah, Live in Hell having a really tough time against Beast for Numbers on this Domina so far, but that is a disconnection there, my friends. So, brief pause while we get that sorted and sort of reel everybody back into the map.
I too die one time on Tracer and decide to disconnect my entire PC and throw it into the Pacific Ocean. Well, I guess the Atlantic Ocean. We're dealing with EU here. Could be the Red Sea. I don't know. Maybe the Mediterranean. They got some options over there in terms of bodies of water to throw the PC into. But regardless, like you were seeing, OTPorridge was playing their poke style incredibly well, holding the space, trying to wait to find value. Whereas Unlimited, again, on this dive comp, they can't really close the space all too effectively. You saw the D.Va mech getting burned time and again there where they had to be so incredibly careful. And I think the only trade still is just these Tracers back and forth here, so both teams still waiting to actually earn an edge in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, you would love to see this dive comp from Unlimited actually close that gap, but it's so tough when you have to worry about, I mean, we kind of saw this a little bit on Lijiang Tower Gardens, where you're playing this diva here for Live in Hell, but you have to have your attention focused on 7 different angles at once. Yes, there's only 5 enemy heroes, but that's just how insane the side of OTPorridge are. They're constantly providing these off-angle attacks coming through. Pizza Lover about to have this, you know, Riptire online just to kick things off here. Tickophobia, however, no slouch to the DPS department, getting tons of work done on this Sojourn here, trying to find some successful off angles, jumping up and around. It is Mantra finding some damage, but has to get away, has to disengage here. Ikbin on this Lucio. This is clearly what Unlimited have want to run the entire series long, and are now only just able to unlock this Lucio Kiriko backline. The bot is a bit stalled here in the interim, so there's been a slight push already for Unlimited, but losing Ikbin, that's going to be the go button here for the rest of OTPorridge. Speaking of go buttons, that's a bit of a Riptire coming out from Pizza Lover, trying to find somebody. A DMech on to Live in Hell. Yeah, that'll suffice.
Yeah, and now you just see the Baby Diva trying to make it over to the bot to stall it. That way they have to kill the Baby Diva. But finally, it will be the removal of Live in Hell, who is no longer living in Hell. But yeah, maybe that Riptire a little bit over the top for the fight. But OTPorridge now going to be able to surge forward here with everything minus that Riptire, of course, at their disposal here. The biggest worry is just making sure that Panopticon does not get eaten. But realistically, you know, there's not a lot of damage on the side of Unlimited to actually break out of the Panopticon if you can connect it onto a significant amount of members.
Yeah, that's an excellent point here. Usually such a, you know, avoidable ultimate if you've got the burst potential, but not really here for Unlimited. The Sound Barrier from Ikbin, they would love to fight this one out, love to close things here before that point cap comes through. Tidal Blast from Moots, last on to Beast for Numbers, and that Panopticon is utilized, but as you indicated, the most possible, Mega, gets eaten up by Live in Hell, so that is a massive fight win here for Unlimited, spending only their Overclock and Sound Barrier. Yes, 2 very useful tools, but crucially, holding on to 2 more that remake for Live in Hell, crucial in these longer drawn-out fights.
I think what's even more important for that one is the fact that they didn't give forward spawns over to the side of OTPorridge. That means OT has to take their time to set up this next fight, and Unlimited actually is going to be able to make some bot progress and move it potentially to their own forward spawns as well here. So actually, you know, phenomenal to take that fight there and come out ahead in the amazing ways you did for the side of Unlimited.
Captive Sun out here from Aster. You can see Live in Hell looking to find a bit of an eat onto it. Does just that. This Diva is keeping the team alive here for Unlimited, and diving in onto those straggling members of OTPorridge while you're at it. Just getting a few pick-off kills, the back end of it, all in a day's work for finally what feels like this Diva pick here finally coming to fruition. Gets demeched, but goes ahead with that re-mech ultimate, determined to get back into it. Want to stay in this fight. If they could cap here this objective and unlock forward spawns, that is a massive leg up that OTPorridge are going to have a tough time matching.
Yeah, and again, it's about trying to secure those forward spawns, but health bar so incredibly low, as now you're seeing both teams get people back into the fight, but it's going Unlimited's way.
Yeah, Live in Hell has to dive out of it for a few moments here, but is able to clean up Pizza Lover with those boosters, despite the minor nerf of cooldown. Still a devastating cooldown to have so frequently here for the Diva. Very strong. This particular tank hero has been, will be, seemingly forever. But yeah, Beast for Numbers trying to lead the team once again back to the objective. But as we're seeing here, this Domina has kind of a tough time actually re-engaging. The same as Sigma, would love to be defending an objective, would love to hold down one of these locations and actually fortify from there, but they don't have the speed boost here for OTPorridge to actually facilitate an aggressive poke.
Yeah, and so the Domina, again, just a little bit too slow here, so Unlimited, you know, probably took a little bit longer than they wanted, but finally getting the forward spawns and some extra meters now on the board, moving into the second half of this push map. And just look at how proactive Live in Hell is being, right? Constantly being vigilant, checking these off angles, checking the side angles, trying to figure out where members are, but in the meantime, you've already lost 2.
Yeah, Ikbin and Tickophobia both going out of this fight pretty early on here. So Aster on this Kiriko, able to find some solid answers there, cleaning up 2 in this fight. Pizza Lover taking the Diva, the mech, and the real thing there just to clinch it up. So OTPorridge, again, not spending anything in that fight, which is absolutely massive. They can bring this bot back towards the neutral, but that is a distance that grows longer and longer every fight win that Unlimited get.
Yeah, and again, OTPorridge still has to secure their forward spawns before they can even, actually offer up to try to start getting to that full 74 meters that we see for the side of Unlimited here. Still completely doable, but as teams are just competing for space right now, you have to start looking towards these ultimates and what can be expended here, and right now I'm expecting an aggressive sound barrier.
Mantra hungry for a pulse bomb, looking to find a target that of course is not being gobbled up by Live in Hell's D-Matrix. Sound barrier from Ikbin gets stunned up, but not before you can utilize that ult, so absolutely massive. Panopticon is laid through, but it looks as though no one is taken down or even eats too much damage from it. Everyone able to break that D.Va out of that prison stuck in, so it is going to be the loss of Aticophobia is a bit of a tough one here. Unlimited would love to keep everyone alive and kicking closer in this engagement. That is a pulse bomb for sure. Marlin taking down Beast for numbers and with a sliver of health, bodying a Moots as well. But Mantra back in this engagement. There is the point unlocked, so forward spawns have been found here for OTPorridge for a few moments longer. If you can see Aster getting out of this one alive, just manages to swip step to safety, and there's still a fight going on here on the back room. Live in Hell trying to get back to the rest of the squad just to sustain them as, yeah, you can just see it there. Aticophobia trying to find a pick-off kill, and of course Pizza Lover would love to stuff that before it gets underway, but Unlimited still finding this high ground control that we're seeing on the back end of this objective. The bot still being fought over before we get back towards that central point of the map here. Ultimates up plenty for Unlimited, whereas OTPorridge, they have the rush, so if they can sustain themselves a bit further here, Beast for numbers back on this Winston. I highlight it to begin this map in particular here. A very dominant Winston player, pardon the pun in the previous tank. That is going to be the rush coming out here for Solar Asters as well in answer. So finally, those will finally wear off as Live in Hell and Solar, that is the side of Unlimited, fully unleashed here, spending that overclock, forcing everyone from OTPorridge back. Finally a team kill, finally a break in the madness.
Yeah, but it truly is madness, right? I mean, there's so many situations where OTPorridge is down members, but they're still contesting the bot. Like, realistically, they should not have forward spawns. They should not have the 62 meters that they do right now. But OTPorridge is just so well-versed and even short-handed, just being these objective fiends, whereas Unlimited just maybe potentially a little too hesitant to pull the trigger sometimes and making it just a little bit harder on themselves.
Yeah, it feels like in a war of attrition, OTPorridge just flipped the chessboard over and go all out. But yeah, losing Beast for numbers early on here and a pulse bomb eat. Mantra sending that one into nothing. That's certainly got to stymie you for a few moments longer here. The bot once again in the hands of Unlimited, but this time they can get some good distance here as it's just on the back end of it. Moots, yeah, there's nowhere to run, my friend. And this time, once again, Unlimited have plenty of ults to work with.
Now, again, I wonder if we're going to see Live in Hell try to go back to what he was doing before, where you're sort of peeking and checking these corners to make sure Junkrat can't do exactly what you're seeing here. Trying to follow up. Oh, but thankfully Sojourn has slide.
Yeah, Aticophobia able to get away from that one, but now wise to the Junkrat's antics, backs away to find one of the safer angles from which to poke here. Yeah, you can see the easy damage being lobbed through from Pizza Lover on this Junkrat. That is a trigger of the trap, but decides to think better of it. Wants to continue fighting there on the front line as Beast for numbers diving through, squishes Ikbin online while booping Aticophobia out of this engagement here. Unlimited, despite losing a couple bodies there in that fight, still stick it out, and with this war of attrition, will finally win things out as long as they can clean up Pizza Lover on the back end of this one.
Yeah, but, I mean, honestly, I was, finding that kill on the Pizza Lover could be the nail in the coffin here, as we're down below 10 seconds. We're going to be entering overtime, so every kill is going to matter here, especially if we can find one onto a member of OTPorridge. It could end this fight before it has a chance to start.
Overtime burning, Pizza Lover the first to fall. You called it, and so it has come to pass. A sound barrier out here from Ikbin. They still have this Kitsune Rush ready to go, should the fight even necessitate it. And this is just OTPorridge falling one by one here. Beast for numbers diving all over on that Primal Rage, but unfortunately nowhere near the bot itself. The Tidal Blast comes out from Moots, but Unlimited are just playing so regimented here around the bot. Very much in control of their own fates. There is a last-minute contest coming through. Pizza Lover on the Vendetta, trying to find any surprise pick, but it is not to be. With ults to spare, it is going to be Unlimited taking their second map of the series and putting themselves on match point.
Yeah, Unlimited, honestly, playing that incredibly well. It looked a little bit scary in the midpoint, where again they were having trouble contesting the objective properly, and they were giving away free meters while taking a fight, a little bit too hesitant. But especially in those last few minutes, just being so decisive about where they wanted to be, what engagement tools they wanted to use, and things of that nature, it really gave them the edge here. And now Unlimited, they find themselves punching up against OTP, but you still have to secure one more map to say that you did the job right.
I've been loving what we're seeing from Unlimited here on these, especially here on, on Esperanza. They were dealt a devastating blow on Suravaso. There's no two ways about it there. That was a 3-0 map going the way of OTPorridge, playing at peak Chaos Generation mode. But now, I mean, yes, you had the Wrecking Ball ban here, but of course these next map types we have available to us of Escort and Hybrid kind of favor that style less and less the further we get into this series here. Now, if anyone can make it work, we do know that that is OTPorridge, but it feels as though we're seeing the walls close in on this composition, on this chaos making from OTPorridge. Unlimited finally seem to have the download on their opponent here. Of course, they did win the first map in the series. I want to highlight that as well. It's not as if we're coming here at a 2-0, now 2-1. No, this is 2-1 in favor of Unlimited. They have been looking really good when they are looking really good. And OTPorridge now, once again, the ones that have to prove themselves in our fourth map of the series. But this time, Unlimited have the chance of closing it out here and now.
Yeah, and I'm potentially a little bit trepidatious, because this is how I felt about Unlimited after map 1, right? We were so confident in them, but all of a sudden you get your one-trick Junkrat back in, and all of a sudden it's a steamroll once again. So with OTPorridge going to be having the Wrecking Ball back at their disposal, as well as a targeted ban coming their way, most likely onto probably that D.Va, or it potentially could even be the Kiriko, it's going to sort of a little bit of cause for concern about how Unlimited wants to handle themselves here. Obviously, they do have that safety net, right? Say they get steamrolled on another map, the final map, they'll get to say where it is as well as get first pick of the ban, so they'll be a little bit more in control. But you'd much rather, obviously, just take the series here and now, but you still have to show that you can handle this Wrecking Ball, because you show that you can handle OTPorridge without it, but now once it's back in the mix, that's when it's truly going to have to be at maximum chaos handling potential.
Yeah, OTPorridge is not a team that will go down without a fight here. They are determined to fight tooth and nail for this one here, folks. It's going to be Midtown for our hybrid map of the series. That is OTPorridge's pick once again. These teams have been trading off who gets to, send us where basically all series long. So clearly feeling pretty good about their chances here. I think if you are going to make that comp work as we're expecting to, we'll see exactly what the lineup ends up being after the bans come through. But yeah, Wrecking Ball does have a lot of, side angles. And of course, until you unlock the payload, essentially this is just an objective based map here on Midtown. So a Wrecking Ball, offensively or defensively, can certainly run riot over an unprepared squad.
Exactly, and it's all about just sort of the different things that can occur here that you have to be aware of when you're going through these matchups and things like that here. But like we said, when we're going into this ban phase, I'm fully expecting OTPorridge to just say, you know what, we don't want to deal with the D.Va for a map. We're going to go ahead and take it out. Of course, they have a few other options available to them as well, but without the ability to ban the Sojourn here, I think most likely that's going to be the way it's going. Yeah, didn't need a crystal ball to see that one. The D.Va is gone here, and now Unlimited really needs to find an interesting way to try to strike back.
Starting to feel a little bit limited here in terms of their hero pick. I mean, on Esperanza was really the first time we got to see that D.Va truly come alive. Had been a little bit taken down, a few pegs or so with Live from Hell. Coming into the first two maps of the series, it was really that Sigma which led the team to such glory on Control Center of Lijiang Tower. Of course, they won out Gardens eventually, but that was certainly not due solely to the benefits of that D.Va. Banning out the Mei is a smart pick, if ever I've seen one here from Unlimited. Yeah, you know that is perhaps one of the most important tools you haven't gotten your hands on yet. So, OTPorridge, down one of their main DPS picks, but still, playing this without a D.Va for Unlimited is going to be tough. That is their favorite tank pick by a mile.
Yeah, but I mean, there are technically other options, especially here now that you're going to be on Midtown. Like, I wouldn't be the end of the world if you wanted to try to go back over to something pokey, like either the Sigma or the Domina comes to mind for options as well here. It's just going to be all about making sure that you shut down that Wrecking Ball. But we do actually have another swap for the side of Unlimited here. It's going to be Koloi coming in here. This is a support that we have not seen from yet. Even and again, something we also haven't acknowledged is that Baptiste being back in play here, but your bat player not back in. So I'm interested to see what this plan is going to be.
Yeah, Cody being in here kind of suggests possibly a double flex support line here for the side of Unlimited. No changes for OTPorridge, so still feeling pretty good about having Beast for Numbers in on that tank pick. I would expect to see that Domina until it stops working. I mean, Midtown especially feels like a natural pick for these poke-based tanks. And Live in Hell could certainly run this Sigma once again. I mean, it was incredibly effective on that first point of Liuzhong Tower, so what better place to do it than here on this hybrid map pick? I mean, perhaps only eclipsed a little bit by, oh, say, Circuit Royale if we end up there on a 5th map. Just reading some tea leaves, it could be nothing there. But yeah, I think if you're going to have something, if you want to run a tempo similar to what OTPorridge are running, I would opt into the poke duel.
Exactly. So it's just going to be one of those things of if you truly want to opt into the poke duel, then that is going to have to be your game plan. You're going to have to be confident in it. But I feel like there are other options. You know, you do think of if you do rotate properly, a lot of rush comps can do a whole lot of good here, especially if you think of like specifically the Ramatra or, you know, scandalous to say in 2026 with the Reinhardt even trying to make a play here and come out of the spawn room and things like that. Because again, if you rotate properly with the rest of your team in unison, use those shields from those characters to try to get people in position and then burst out onto the defense, you can certainly make an impact right away here against these poke comps. But again, it's all about finding ways to close that distance when you're playing against poke.
Yeah, and of course you have to be very conscious of that timer burning down here on that attack. A team like OTPorridge could easily drain things out, easily extend these fights. I mean, we got to see on Esperanza, things were getting pretty messy in these engagements. Both these teams continuing fights even after losing 1 or even 2 members of their squad here, to the point where things kind of devolve into chaos. And if there's anything we've learned from OTPorridge, they thrive in those settings. So Unlimited, I think I would like to see them play this more regimented style here. Once OTPorridge brings you down into the muck, things can start to get a little bit dicey. Now, they did just win Esperanza, that map that kind of was devolving that direction, so I think they still have a good enough head of steam to continue with that momentum, but you need to make sure that you are getting these disengages here. You're not allowing, whether it's the Wrecking Ball or whether it is, you know, having to worry about that Junkrat, where they're not allowing these things to run away with you in these fights the longer and longer they go.
Running away chaotically is sort of the name of the game, it feels like sometimes. But hey, you know, there's tons of different options and things of that nature when you're deciding to try to change things up. I'm gonna be real. We're just yapping. We're just finally, okay, we're going into map. Listen, with all due respect, if you play in any tournament, like, you leave your casters high and dry when you don't, when you're deciding, you know what, right now is when I'm going to go do some random nonsense. Like, sit your butt down, you're playing a match, please, for the love of goodness, stop with this wandering away nonsense. It drives us crazy because we just run out of things to talk about, so we're just like, yeah, wow, this is crazy. Let's hit on the same talking point we've hit 16 times. I'm sure it's the 17th time. It's going to be really, really fun for everybody to hear.
But now that we've gotten that taken care of, the teams are both here, ready to go, at least as far as we assume. The defensive side of things, OTPorridge, no surprises here. Aster and Moots, once again, this BAP Iari. Iari has seen a couple minor nerfs, which, in my opinion, were perhaps a bit unnecessary. It's just she was finding a nice little niche in the you know, meta picks, but nope, can't have nice things here for our flex supports. So it is going to be Iari a little bit stymied in terms of her damage potential here, but still very quite lethal in the right hands, and Aster has proved themselves to be more than up to the task here. But Mantra on this Hanzo, we have seen this pick here on occasion from Mantra. Again, one of these OTPs, just really solid on this Hanzo. Not at all the DPS line you would see in most games outside of, say, Quick Play here at this day and age, but between Pizza Lover and Mantra, I feel like they can get most anything done as long as they have this solid anchor point of Beast for Numbers to rotate around. So keep your tank alive, and everyone else will be eating good for the side of OTPorridge here. But it is a Ticophobia falling first. Yeah, tough spot to be in here as Unlimited are fully committed to this offense. There's no real place for them to go. They get the kill onto Pizza Lover, but that is going to be all they get for their trouble. And it is just now to OTPorridge to clean up the retreating members of a sheepish Unlimited.
Yeah, and again, you're seeing what a poke composition could do, especially if you're not prepared for it on the other side with Unlimited. You know, while you're playing the attacker poke composition, there's just going to be the matter of the Domina has a little bit more sustain on the defense, so unless you can find ways to break through or get around that shield, it's really going to sort of be a thorn in the side here on your approach every single time.
Mantra already proving himself so effective here, about to have those dragons online. We have seen a few kills. Last time I casted OTPorridge, they are more than able to actually land some solid picks there with that ultimate, or at least find a nice, the word here, of course, is zoning potential there. Point was slightly being contested by Marlin, but it has to retreat back to the rest of the squad just to keep alive. So much damage to sustain on the front line, but a massive accretion comes through. Live in Hell able to find the better of Beast for Numbers, and of course that Sojourn is there to confirm the kill, but answered back immediately by Mantra on this Hanzo. Still though, without your tank, and of course the Domina is going to take quite a while to get back to the point. Bit shorter of a run back than in some other engagements here for the defense. That is a Dragon Strike coming through. Live in Hell not able to see it, just able to get alive with the body intact. But on the outside of things, when you're not engaged in these indoor venues, everyone else is being torn to pieces by the DPS line of OTPorridge, who are not at all troubled by missing their tank here. Now back in the fight, Beast for Numbers sustaining the rest of the squad. Pizza Lover! I mean, there's nowhere for Unlimited to go. Solar and Live in Hell truly are living in hell. And it turns out hell is just a small room in New York with a Junkrat.
Yeah, I feel like that was such a misplay from Unlimited. You get the early pick onto the Domina, and then instead of forcing yourself over to the objective, you decided to all funnel into the small firehouse where you knew the Junkrat was, and that allowed you to get spammed out by both the Hanzo and Junkrat on two separate angles. Like, you should have just made your way over to the objective and contested point. I think you're getting a little too kill hungry, a little too preoccupied, and this is the chaos that OTPorridge rather wants you to focus on.
Window out here, the Ant Matrix for Moose, but immediately gets dusted down the second that runs out. Captive Sun from Solar, plenty of damage still available to this Iyari pick. So yeah, that is Unlimited finally finding themselves an opening here to dive onto the objective. A team kill, that is certainly going to do things for them on point A. And not a moment too soon, as we were in sub 1 minute territory, and spending just those two ultimates here of the Flux and the Captive Sun, that is excellent value gained. And OTPorridge now, not as strong of a point on the defense, of course, having this positional setup here with the Domina. It's exactly where you want to be. If you can get a kill though, yeah, the Unlimited already unleashed.
And so now you are just looking to, you know, do a little bit more of this poke back and forth. You're trying to sort of break the established defense before it has a chance to set up, and it seems like you're going to be able to do just that. That being said, you know, you have the Iyari in place here, so it's going to be about how many resources Live in Hell can now get just to stay alive on this high ground.
Yeah, another Captive Sun, now this time from Aster, ready to go. Lays down onto several and will take down the entire backline of Unlimited here. The defense stabilizing for OTPorridge, and again, perfect timing for them. Getting to see these Iyaris duel it out has been great so far. Coldie holding on to that aim matrix for this next fight.
Amplification matrix still good to go here, and when you have a Sojourn overclock to pair with it, the biggest thing is going to be positioning. Again, you want to be able to set up this overclock somewhere that you're actually going to be able to see your opponents, and not just like, oh hey, the Dominant put down a shield, so now we're just going to waste 4 to 5 shots out of it just trying to break through the barrier. And it's going to be about assaulting this high ground once again here, if that's the game plan.
Mantra knows the on-ramp here for Unlimited, spies them coming up that staircase, and is going to lay through with the dragons, only takes down that pylon here, but combined with that, Aticophobia on the other side with that overclock taking Pizza Love out of the equation here, and Matrix rolling for OTPorridge in the defense. No one really benefiting from it here at length, considering that payload has already made its way under that tunnel. Usually such a sticking point for these offensive teams, but finally OTPorridge are going to jump on these members of Unlimited who are on the cart right now. Flux ready for Live in Hell, but you've got to make sure you stay alive for a few moments longer here. It is going to be the Sojourn still finding these kills as Beast for Numbers falls. The Captive Sun from Solar sustaining the rest of the squad. And I mean, talk about an easy breeze into point B. That is 2 minutes 40 in the bank for Unlimited. Another team kill.
And it's already an adaptation for First Point, right? You think back to that fight where they chased down the Junkrat instead of playing the objective. No, they get their one kill, and instead of, thirsting for more, they're like, all right, let's go stack the objective. We don't care if they're holding high ground because we're just going to move the payload here. Phenomenal adaptations already by Unlimited here. Now it's going to be seeing about what can be chased down, see if we can get another entry kill.
Yeah, Live in Hell trying to keep the DPS line alive, and that high ground Solar not able to escape. This cart gently moving its way past this initial corner here on point C. The Flux comes out, waiting for that Immortality field to dissipate, but Mantra able to find that kill on the Sigma before the ult can be completed. Back here on the Echo, an excellent pick here. Even in these close quarters, can still beam down and blast to bits these squishier targets from Unlimited, and of course, very little Sigma can do in the face of that focusing beam.
Exactly, so you have a little bit of extra damage to deal with things like the Sigma, like you were saying here, but also just more spam damage as well to create situations where you're sort of destroying people before a fight has a chance to begin here, because it seems like the longer these fights drag on, it's going Unlimited's way here. So OTPorridge now just trying to make sure fights end quickly, but again, the Dominant somehow the first to fall.
That is so tough. They had the ult advantage here, plenty in their back pocket, but Unlimited are the ones, the receiving end of so many more of these kills. So despite a rocky start to this engagement here, OTPorridge are able to stabilize just with that single kill coming through from that Riptire out from Pizza Lover. Everyone else about to have theirs in this next engagement here. So Unlimited now in a tough spot here. This corner should be an easy point of engagement, but with the rest of your squad separated from the Sigma can be a really difficult time keeping him alive and steady here. Solar gonna have another Captive Sun in just a second, if you can stay alive. Been the first to fall in some of these fights here, so you do not want to get caught out as these fights drag on. Marlin falls though without still having that pulse bomb ready to go. That is a tough loss here, once again slowing things down, and we are in sub 1 minute territory for Unlimited's offense.
Unlimited, they seem to have been ground to a screeching halt here simply because they can't clear these high grounds, right? It's constantly a Junkrat or somebody else lurking up top here, and you're so focused on the objective now that you're sort of letting them get away with murder. That being said, Marlin's already come away with 2 in the fight.
Yeah, now is your chance to go. We've got that Ant Matrix doing not a whole lot of anything there for Moots around the corner. So Unlimited about to have themselves plenty more. If Live in Hell can just build up towards this next Flux, that could easily lock things up here for the defense. Now Spawn very much favors the side of OTPorridge, but with an overclock rolling on the flank here, Aticophobia needs to find a pickoff. It needs to come up big, or maybe you don't if Solar is the one to do the work. The Captive Sun was the real hero pick here, so that is going to be overtime finally. But a team kill for the side of Unlimited means that, in theory, they can run unharried and unbothered, sailing clean into point C. It got a bit dicey there at point C, rounding out in that last minute, but finally Unlimited closed things out on Midtown with a full cap, crucially though in overtime. So win condition technically available for OTPorridge, but it is a long road to get here.
And so having to deal with, again, having to cap all 3 points of Midtown, that's so far from a guarantee, you can't even consider it a possibility until you're on 3rd point, right? There's so many pain points to get through on this map, and especially OTPorridge's composition, especially knowing that they're going to have this Junkrat OTP and things like that. It's so much better suited for the defense, right? You have to sort of go at crazy angles and things like that for Pizza Lover to be finding the value that he was finding before. Especially when you're playing on offense, right? It completely changes the dynamic of how you play these characters. And now Unlimited being the defensive position here, it really is going to suit them quite well with the BAP ERE look. They just seem more comfortable on the Baptiste in general here. But OTPorridge, again, their game plan is pretty much going to have to rely on just some crazy stuff coming out, because they're such a defensive team. To put them on offense here is really going to be a thorn in their side.
Yeah, I mean, one of the downsides of having a lot of these 1TP hero picks here is that, you can swap out between maps all you like, but between offense and defense, you've got to still be able to make something work here. So, yeah, same composition here, just Beast for Numbers on the Sigma instead of the initial Domina here. We like to see that damage coming through that, of course, Sigma can so easily put through, and plenty of those defensive cooldowns to worry about. But on the side of Unlimited here, a bit of a swap coming through as Marlon is opting into this Venture instead, trying to find some disruption on these more stationary DPS picks. You can easily find out Mantra's Hanzo if, of course, they do not have their wits about them. So Unlimited here trying to find some of these angles and pickoffs. Already falling low here is Marlon has to back away to the rest of the squad. OTPorridge's offense coming through that same way that we saw for Unlimited, losing Coldie early on here. Aticophobia soon to follow. Yeah, that is going to be things cracked wide open for the offense of OTPorridge. If they can just keep things going for a few moments longer here, they can sort of play out this sort of harried attack on the objective here. So it really feels like Unlimited are kind of falling one by one. Beast for Numbers not allowing any access here for Live in Hell. Finally, the Sigma duel is going to be cleaned up by the team in blue. OTPorridge, there is a chance to recontest here, but it's not a clean one.
It's not a clean one, so you'd much rather just not play it out. But I'm very confused by Unlimited there, right? Like, obviously, your Venture was being chased down, but you had a prime opportunity to split OTPorridge at the choke, and instead you just sort of hand them space, hand over fist, to continue making work here. And that's the thing you can't do, right? OTPorridge's composition, it requires space to be able to do anything, especially when you're playing Junkrat Hanzo. It's so much spam damage that you need space to actually be able to find value with it. But that being said, is anybody actually tracking Pizza Lover on this flank? Like, you saw the nades be shot from this side. Surely somebody has to be aware enough to be like, hey, a Junkrat's coming up the stairs.
You can see him just scooching close to the ground. Finally does get spotted out. Marlon able to signify that angle coming out here from Pizza Lover. So benefit no longer in the hands of OTPorridge. Despite the massive time bank, this is the defensive angle that Unlimited would love to hang on to for, if they had their druthers, the entirety of these 4 minutes and counting here. So they're building up towards a nice stack of ultimates for the defense. But on the other side of things, OTPorridge have 4 available to them for this next fight. And, well, I mean, they are still getting picked off one by one, so they need to clean Sep and find a full re-engage.
Yeah, and this is so confusing from the side of Unlimited, because they had this clean engage, right? But instead of choosing to hold forward there and deny the space for the Hanzo or the Junkrat to make work, they instead choose to rotate back to the high ground when, once that door is closed on first point, like you saw it was, that's a phenomenal spot for the defense to hold.
Yeah, they seem to find themselves more comfortable on this high ground angle, so the Dragon Strike comes through from Mantra, not able to find anything in terms of picks, so clearly being found out already here and getting blasted down to bits to boot. That is a team kill once again for Unlimited, who feel like once they win these team fights, they really do so in commanding fashion.
Exactly, but again, they're just willing to give this up, once again rotating back to the safety of the high ground instead of looking for something just a little bit more aggressive potentially here. Because again, you can find such good value as we are just watching Marlon just go ahead and just make eyes with the Junkrat here.
Yeah, backs away. The Pulse Bomb gets some damage through, but not enough to clean up Pizza Lover. Fortunately, the Captive Sun is there to do just that. So, yeah, the damage coming out from Aticophobia, who does fall valiantly, keeping the team alive, but Solar is able to provide the ult support necessary for Unlimited to actually stop things once again in their tracks. We have already burned over 2 minutes off the clock here for the offense. OTPorridge need to find some sort of opening. Mantra has decided the Hanzo is not going to work, swapped over to that Emery, has that potential of finding incredible pickoffs. The flank angles are certainly able, you can really find some nice, pickoffs there, but Marlon already spotting out this usual approach.
Yeah, Marlon deciding to hide in the corridor and not allowing those angles to come to fruition is incredibly important here. But now we'll have to see how much advantage this high ground truly can be here when you're having to deal with spam damage. It feels like on all angles. It feels like only a matter of time before someone's just going to decide they need to win the fight now and rip an ultimate on either side.
Overclock ready here for Tickophobia. Unlimited would love to get another clean fight win, and this is exactly the sort of barrel they love to see, but that is a clean bait coming out there from Pizza Lover, knowing that that's where Unlimited go on that high ground. An excellent use of that steel trap, and finally, the cart is gently sailing through the lower grounds of the Midtown Tunnel here, so, but there is still some contesting happening here for Unlimited. They're not done with this fight just yet. They're back here on the high ground, and down your tank, OTPorridge are having really tough time actually sustaining themselves. They can get the picks, they can find some angles, but without that large body holding ground, they're having a really tough time getting distance.
Really tough time getting distance, as well as they're so incredibly split. I mean, we just watched Pizza Lover's POV. Pretty much the entirety of 2 fights now have gone by while Pizza Lover's on an off angle, and ultimately for nothing is finally going to be taken down by Live in Hell pushing forward here. So now you again, bleeding members fast here on some sort of fast approach for your next fight to already be done and over with. And now with less than a minute in the bank, OTPorridge, while they have ultimates, they're starting to run out of options.
Yeah, sub 1 minute territory, absolutely right here, and this is where things get tougher and tougher. Mantra playing musical heroes now, deciding the Emery is not the pick. Now the Sim alongside the Reinhardt instead. So this is certainly a pocket strategy if you need to make something work, but it does feel desperation levels here. We mentioned earlier on that you can certainly make a Reinhardt work into this Sigma composition, but things go up, nothing really comes down, unfortunately. There, Live in Hell, bit of a whiff there for that ultimate. Everyone else slippery from OTPorridge, or to the benefit of Unlimited here has already fallen. So we are down 23 seconds here for OTPorridge stepping in a trap just to clear things off.
Clearing it off indeed, but now OTPorridge, again, this is going to be potentially their final fight situation. They do have some ults to work with, both support ultimates as well as another Rip Tire to boot here. Unlimited, while having support ultimates to mirror as well, it's going to be about actually finding value with them as you already ripped the Ant Matrix.
Ant Matrix through here, that Rip Tire very telegraphed to Tickophobia. Wise to Pizza Lover's tricks. The cart is moving, so they just need to find some pickoffs first before they can deal with, I believe that is the Rhine on the objective. That is one of your main sticking points, but of course without the support of the squad, that is something that can easily be dealt with here. OTPorridge, they are simply down a bit of an immortality field, but that means Unlimited have plenty more room to work with. They can find these kills a bit more easily here. Losing Pizza Lover, that is a devastating loss here in this fight. That is one of the major sources of your damage. Overtime Wick burning here for OTPorridge. Their offense crumbling one by one. No one left to stay on the cart. And it all ends on Midtown. No map 5 to be had in a surprising turn of events here. But maybe it shouldn't be that surprising considering the come up that Unlimited has been on the second half already of the season. They will take the series 3-1.
Yeah, like I said, Unlimited, they really needed to come away with something big here, and they certainly did just that. So now being able to, you know, start the momentum building for those back half of the season is what you need. Whereas OTPorridge, you know, while they had a good start to the season, I think mid-season definitely exposed some of their weaknesses, and now other teams starting to adapt, starting to pick up on, hey, listen, here's how you can shut this down, and it started. You know, it's now going to be that time where OTPorridge needs to actually take themselves to the drawing board for the first time this season and say, okay, do we need to reevaluate? How do we change and how do we adapt moving forward?
Yeah, love to see them finding these, you know, secrets of success here. Unlimited, I mean, they've only lost one map in this series. Yes, this was close. Yes, it was hard fought, but able to take it a 3-1 fashion has got to feel pretty good. This was no map 5 scenario where everyone's tired and exhausted and playing into that chaos that OTPorridge so loves to, you know, cause for their opponents here. It's Unlimited winning here in pretty commanding fashion. Again, hard fought maps. I don't want to say that OTPorridge did not give as good as they got here, but 3-1 still feels good no matter what. Folks, we're going to go to a quick break here. On the other side, a quick interview with our victors in just a moment. Welcome back, folks. We are here with an interview with a couple of our winners on the side of Unlimited. It is the Tichophobia and Live in Hell, your DPS and tank players from Unlimited. First of all, congrats to you both on the victory. I want to give a quick first question I have for you. We know OTPorridge can be a tricky team here. Did you think this was going to go all the way to 5 maps, or did you feel like 4 was kind of all you needed?
I didn't know what would you expect, but we know it's gonna be like a hard game. They only dropped 1 map in the last 4 weeks or 5. We know it's gonna be hard, but we also know we can win that easily.
Yeah, I kind of I watched one scrim and I think we prepared really well in like the hours before the game, so I think it helped. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly tons of different prep work and things that went into this matchup for y'all. Because again, coming in just on paper as the underdog here, but just as you're going through after your research and things like that, the compositions y'all were playing, I found very, very interesting. Was it mostly just comfort picks, or is this just stuff that you found works specifically against OTPorridge?
It's like mostly our comfort picks. Like we tried playing our own game. Like we didn't worry about what they're gonna do. Just start focusing on what we can do. Like play our own game, play our own tempo.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think we tried countering a little bit, but I think we just thought that our like picks, like the characters we mainly play, are just better suited for us to like win the game.
Comfort picks, they can get the job done at the end of the day here. My next thing is going to be just highlighting the one moment where it felt like things weren't going your way there on Saravasa. Was it just, the headlights got blinding? Was it just a little too overwhelming on Flashpoint? Maybe give us some insight into what went wrong there.
I think we had some different opinions on bans before the match, and I think that kind of just yeah, I don't know, just held us back a little bit. I think everyone was kind of out of it for that map, but I think we regrouped really, really well, and I think it worked out. Yeah.
I also think like shout out to OTPorridge. They played it very well. They took angles and we couldn't do anything. Like we didn't have any speed. We couldn't like take angles. We didn't have any like tracer to like help us. They played it like very good.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking of shoutouts, of course, to the losing team, very gracious of you. Yeah, it was a hard-fought match, but anyone you want to shout out or drop thanks to before we let you go?
Shout out to Ghost, my gold. Shout out to Alex, and shout out to Percy. Shout out to Molly, and basically everyone that I talked to. Really, shout out to all the golds.
Yeah, and shout out to my team too. Shout out to everyone. They played very well. And shout out Churo.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for joining us once again. Congratulations on the win, and best of luck in the second half of the season.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Goodbye.
All right, great to hear from the side of Unlimited there. Yeah, it's pretty clear that they had an idea that, yeah, Saravasa just was not going to go their way. It just didn't feel like it fell apart as things went on. But gracious victors, too, thanking their opponent. You really love to see that.
Yeah, I keep marveling on it week after week here, but CGL really, we always try to get, banter and stuff during opponent picking streams, things like that, but we can never get it because everybody's just so gosh darn nice to each other. You love to see it. Just a bunch of wholesome people playing Overwatch together at the same time, and at the end of the day, it's great here, but summing up this match again, Unlimited is certainly a win that they needed, and OTPorridge, now not just with a mid-season loss, a regular season loss on the books officially, definitely could shake up this tier quite a bit moving forward.
Speaking of moving forward, I believe there is still more to come tonight here. It is going to be an NA stream, unless I am much mistaken. Brad, tell me otherwise if that is the case. But yeah, there is still more CGL to come this weekend. And of course, after today, there is a lot more down the pike for next weekend. We are still just starting the second half of our season here. So folks, there is more to come. And of course, keep tab on those Go Live notifications to find out when it all shakes out. But for us, that's going to do it for today. We'll see you in the next one.